Constructive Voices, the podcast for the construction people, with news, views, and expert interviews.
Hi, and welcome to Constructive Voices. I'm Steve Randall, and this is an industry spotlight episode where we take a look at the work of CIS and how central this is to the construction industry in Ireland. Our guest is Scott Delaney, Research Manager at CIS.
All going well from 23 on. I'd like to think that the impact of materials won't be, I suppose, as hurtful as it's been over the last 12 months, but certainly the rise in materials ultimately will result in the rise of a construction project.
If you'd like to find out how you can be featured in an industry spotlight, contact us via the website constructive-voices.com. Don't forget the dash.
Constructive Voices media partner in Ireland and the United Kingdom is Construction Industry News. Since 2002, Construction Industry News has been focused on the very latest projects and developments within the UK and Ireland.
As always, joining me on Constructive Voices is Peter Finn, Pete the Builder. How are you, Pete?
All good, Steve. All good. And yourself?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I mean, as we said last time, time is just flying by, and there are so many different bits of the conversation that we have here on Constructive Voices. We talk about all kinds of things, and I'm going to keep teasing this. We have a big episode coming up very soon, which will just completely blow your mind. But today, we're talking about something which is obviously very close to your heart. We're going to focus a little bit on the construction industry in Ireland, but also with a global perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be talking to Scott from Construction Information Services. So the new currency in the world, Steve, is information. You don't have to go for cryptocurrency, or you don't have to be worrying about euros or sterling. It's information is the key. So they say anyway. To be able to make any proper decision on any construction project, you need information to back that up. Nobody, will just jump straight in and start investing money or setting up their business in a certain way without having done their research on the market and on other companies, and kind of knowing what they've got coming up in their pipeline. Basically, what Scott does and in Construction Information Services is he creates that information, he collates that information, he gets it together, and then he puts it into a very easy to read kind of a format, breaks it out into different sections so that big companies, small companies, any person basically in construction can get that information and can use that information to help guide their decisions, whether it's planning, whether it's what size of a development to be doing, costs. All of these aspects are researched, and the information is collated together. I've always wondered, how do these big companies make their decisions, and how do they get their crystal ball? And now I know they get that information from companies like Scott's. So he gives a great insight into what it's like to be the person that collates and gives that information, but also the advantages for having that information.
Fantastic. Well, let's listen to you speaking to Scott Delaney.
I'm the research manager here at CIS. I've been with the company now about 16 years. But this year actually represents a milestone for the company. We're actually 50 years going this particular year. It's 50 years ago, the first issue of the CIS report was produced. And I suppose since then, we've become the cornerstone of construction and related industries, providing comprehensive, reliable and timely and verified business contract and supply opportunities and intelligence to the sector here in Ireland. Just to give you a bit of a background of the 50-year journey here at CIS, the first edition of the report was published back in 1972 by our founder, Paddy Hayes. He saw a business opportunity in creating a report of pipelined construction projects by obtaining information from planning offices, believe it or not, and creating a hard copy report then to sell to construction companies at the time for just a paltry figure of about £19 for a 3-month subscription.
I remember them good old days well. I remember them well.
Our first customer actually of the report was John Paul Construction, who to this day are still one of our customers and obviously are regarded as one of the top contractors in the country. I believe we've outperformed ourselves over the last 50 years for an SME in terms of our business life expectancy. We've seen a lot of change over those 50 years. There's been obviously two massive global recessions and obviously more recently the COVID-19 pandemic. But we've managed to adapt and change and innovate over the time to sustain ourselves in a competitive sector. Back in 2007 then, following a strategic review of the business and the needs of our customers, we invested in new technologies and data gathering processes to enable us to deliver an online service rather than the hard copy report to meet those customer requirements for real-time data. And this investment decision kind of proved to be the catalyst which enabled us to trade through those stormy and rough waters that I mentioned. And today, look, we've invested significantly in our online service. We've real-time advanced information on all that's happening in construction on the island of Ireland. We're also developing new channels and links for distributing this factual and verified information. In 2012, we acquired actually our main competitor in Northern Ireland, CIC, and in 2015, we opened a dedicated Northern Ireland office. And in late 2021, we were actually acquired by a leading construction information provider, Glenigan. And Glenigan, actually nearly 50 years old themselves. They're the UK's leading provider of business intelligence to the construction sector. So they supply comprehensive and reliable business intelligence, similar to ourselves throughout the UK. CIS joining the Glenigan group kind of solidified our joint position as the most comprehensive provider of construction sales leads and industry insight in the UK and Ireland. And we actually join an international portfolio under the holding company of the Big Factor Group, who have service providers like ourselves in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, and the United States. Today, our company is headquartered in Sandyford in Dublin. We've customers from over 100 business types, including professional, contractors, subcontractors, financial services, and suppliers of all types of goods and services.
Yeah, excellent stuff. It's very, very interesting to hear the development of a company right back from its origins. Can you just delve into a little bit more detail about exactly what it is that you do and who it also relates to?
We essentially track and monitor all major, minor and self-build projects in Ireland, from early planning right up to completion. Our customers are able to search, track and win opportunities on these projects, all on a very recently upgraded CIS platform. So it's very much like a Daft or a Travago or even Amazon in terms of a business model, whereby you're searching very specific search filters to ensure pinpoint results are brought back to you. And that in turn then gives our customers the option to pursue these leads or business opportunities within these construction projects. We'd cover a multitude of sectors, including the civil, utilities and transport sectors, care, residential, education, industrial, hospitality, medical, community and sport, and obviously the hot topic that is residential. We have essentially categorized and scale each of these projects before gathering all relevant information pertaining to them, be it the design team members involved, the materials that are specified, and all the relevant metrics and attribute them to each project. So again, like I spoke of there, that real granular searching is something our customers are able to tap into to bring back those relevant leads. Our project cycles are essentially, we follow a project through the planning stages, the submitteds, the approval. We also cover refusals and withdrawals, which might be of interest to some customer types, and then right into the construction cycle of tender, award, on-site and completion. We value all of our projects based on a shell and core costing model. We've construction types that customers can search by. If you're in the new builds market, if you're just interested in maybe internals and refurbs, obviously then regions. And also we've in recent years started capturing relevant metrics. So it gives you the opportunity to search by the number of housing units, for example, or a floor area, for example, if you're in maybe the flooring game as well. So we can, as I said, we offer real granular search function to the customer. The system essentially works for our customers too. It alerts them to when projects of interest maybe move a stage. It also alerts them as new projects come into the system that fall into that search criteria. So the system essentially does the work for our customers, saving a sales department, for example, time, money, energy, and identifying those business opportunities. And we also have a CRM function within our system where a sales manager can track and assign projects to their team and also monitor, obviously, the outcomes of those leads. The customers that we have as well, they can also search and track the thousands of companies on the platform that we have attributed to projects over the last number of years, and obviously look to enhance and maybe harness existing business relationships and obviously create new ones. Our users have the ability to see which companies work together on a regular basis as well via our company connections feature. We also monitor all construction related public sector tenders each day and ensure these are available on our platform as well. So really assuring that we are that one-stop shop for construction activity and opportunity. And believe it or not, in an Irish context, if you will, 80% of tender advertisements actually relate to non-planning projects. So this is the refurbishment of existing stock and or consultancy services. We've recently introduced a very interactive map whereby companies can actually radial search. So they can identify projects maybe close to their business or obviously then in regions of interest. And other aspects of our service is that customers have the ability to contact our highly experienced research team here to maybe ask for guidance in terms of approach, or if they're looking for a status update on a project there. So again, that's a brief overview, I suppose, of what we do. We track and monitor construction activity and then share that with our customer in terms of them being able to identify opportunity.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting, and obviously it covers a huge amount of information on so many different facets of construction. I suppose the big question is, how do you actually do that? How do you gather that information? How do you get it together?
Our raw data is obviously planning permissions. We're bringing in all these permissions that are lodged each week and obviously monitoring decisions on those as well. So we have two teams within our research department here at CIS. We have a primary team that look after all the collating of those planning applications. They're looking at bringing them into our system. They're scaling them, categorizing them, adding those design teams, those architects, engineers, adding those metrics, be it the number of housing units, the number of classrooms, hotel beds. They're adding those materials that are specified. And then we're also adding a link to the schematics then. So if you are maybe a lighting supplier, you can really look at those mechanical, electrical, engineering drawings that pertain to you and resonate with you. And then you can get a much better idea of what's going to be specified in the build. And then once that project is through planning and through the appeals process, I might add, it's then passed on to our secondary team. And each one of our secondary team have their own sectors which they're responsible for. And on a daily basis, they're speaking and engaging with those project stakeholders, be it the developer, be it the design teams, the local authorities, to obtain those construction and those tender schedules. And they're also looking to verify project information, look to obtain further companies that are involved in the delivery of these projects as they sort of move through that construction cycle. And again, over the last, I would say, 20 years doing kind of phone research, CIS have built, a fantastic relationship with all our information sources. I think they see the value in what we do in terms of trying to bring the right companies together to get those much needed construction projects delivered. And in terms of, we are firm advocates of quality over quantity when it comes to information provision and, the reliance our customers have on that information for making those informed business decisions. So we don't look to cut corners or compromise and rely on automation. So we'd be the only service provider with a dedicated research team to make sure that information is as veracity as it can be.
I can really kind of hear from what you're saying, the benefits that can be obtained from that for so many different people within the industry. They can then obviously use that information and extract the relevant information for themselves, put it to use in the sector that they're involved in. So it's really interesting stuff. Just go into that a little bit more there, maybe the benefits of how your customers use the information you give and what's the benefits that brings to the industry.
Sure, yeah, and look, there's many benefits of a system like ours. I suppose from the outset, it's identifying those worthwhile project opportunities, and as I mentioned earlier, within about 3 clicks, you can get that list of maybe opportunities that you want to pursue, and that's in turn that's saving you time, that's saving you money in terms of the requirement for bodies on the ground, if you will, in terms of a sales team. We look at it that for the price of a coffee a day, you get access to tens of thousands of project leads. But more importantly, it is about building those business relationships so that, moving forward, your product and service can be, always look to be specified on a project, or a company is going to work with you based on your past experience with them in delivering construction projects. And we have an insights tool we're starting to launch here now at the moment, which gives you really, I suppose, a high level analytics in terms of where the construction market is at any one time. It's pretty much up to the hour in terms of its analysis. So again, for those decision makers within a company, they can plan for the future, and they can see potentially a trend in maybe a sector or a region when it comes to construction activity. So yeah, and as I said, the system works for you as well. It alerts you to projects of interest or a project that you are interested moving a stage. So yeah, it's all about saving our customers time and money, and getting them in front of a door they can knock on and ultimately win business.
That's what business is all about. It's about delivering a good service. But, as a businessman myself, I know as one job is finishing, I have to have another job ready to start. And, that process is not a quick one. By the time you've reviewed a project, tendered for it, it's gone through the different phases of the tender process, and then planning and getting it to site, it takes quite a long time. So to have all of that done and to have your pipeline organised, this type of information is absolutely crucial. Like you've mentioned a couple of your customers there earlier. Give us an idea of who has been using construction information services there over the period of time that you've been in business.
The customer base has really diversified. I suppose in the first 2 to 3 decades of our existence, it would have been, the man in the van, the person wearing the hard hat down on site. It was very much, this is just for contractors, and they would have made up our main client base. But I suppose over the last 20 or so years, we've seen more suppliers, more design professionals. We've seen, financial institutions, government bodies, both local and at national level, and even retailers, hoteliers, telecommunication companies subscribing to the system because of, I suppose, construction being such a linchpin or the backbone of any country's economy. And they all want to see, well, look, if there's a building being built, is there a requirement for my goods, my product, my services? And our self-build product that we have, that's one-off housing and residential extensions. That'd be more applicable then to maybe smaller local-based businesses. But essentially, Peter, it's anyone who provides a product or service which can be found or utilized within a building. I'm looking at my office here, and I'm looking at an AV system. I'm looking at office furniture. I'm obviously looking at the lighting systems, heating systems. It's really anybody that has a product or service that can go into a structure, essentially. If you supply doors, lighting systems, commercial kitchens, landscaping services, if you supply kettles for hotel bedrooms that are in the pipeline, or whiteboards for classrooms that are in the pipeline, the service is really for you. And then, as I said, to mention John Paul again, companies of their size, that might be looking to tender for a 200 million euro hospital. So it's really from a one-man operation, if you will, right up to some of the biggest companies in the country, and also massive global brands as well. And I think, as I alluded to as well, some customers just want to see maybe what the other crowd are up to in terms of what they're planning and working on. So it's really any company. It could be a sandwich company that wants to maybe get down on site and feed a few construction workers. So it's really anybody, and it really has diversified over those last 5 decades.
Like over that period of time, you must have gone through some amount of information, and you must have collated some amount of information together. Like, have you counted what you have done over those years? Yeah,
I mean, to give you an idea of maybe just this year as an example, and obviously through maybe the course of the last couple of years with COVID, things have differed. The impact of COVID on maybe getting planning submissions and planning approvals realised took a bit of a hit in terms of obviously the lockdown of Q1 last year. And Ireland, believe it or not, I'm pretty sure we're the only country on the planet to enforce a lockdown of construction for those 4 months. But we've definitely seen a bit of a pickup. And in terms of, I suppose, year to date, to give you an idea of the volumes that we're processing. So our team, our primary and secondary teams have processed just over 8,000 new major and minor planning applications. There's been just under 6,500 planning decisions. We've added 4,000 public sector tenders to our system. We've updated 2,000 projects to contract award. Just under 3,000 projects have commenced on site, and we've seen the realization and delivery of 300 projects as well. These would be asides from obviously the self-build market, but you can see we're processing somewhere in the region on an annual basis of about 30 to 35,000 projects, major and minor projects. Self-build, you'd probably be talking maybe 3 times that in terms of those new applications being added and work starting or decisions being made. So yeah, look, we have a live database there of about 200,000 projects. So plenty of opportunities for our customers.
I've been lucky enough to do a bit of traveling this year. I always have my construction hat on me when I'm traveling, and I'm always looking at the different techniques, simple things like the different types of scaffold that are used in different countries. But the one thing that has stuck out to me is that I know, same as yourself, I have a good idea of my own industry here in Ireland and the demand here that we have. But it's been very interesting for me to see that demand is global. Like, there's a huge demand globally for construction. There always is. I always say that to people, that being involved in construction means that you're always going to be able to travel, because there's always a need for man always needs shelter and people always need home. So, that's going to be out there. What's your thoughts on the last 12 months in terms of pipeline in Ireland to start off with? And I know that you do have a bit of knowledge of other countries as well.
The whole COVID period has changed the landscape of construction. Maybe people are looking to maybe change careers and like you say, maybe seek maybe warmer climates and bring their knowledge with them. In terms of what we've seen here, I suppose it's mainly remained quite consistent in terms of the volume of new plans being lodged, which I suppose shows that there is that continued sentiment there for investment and development. I suppose with the global recession, that was a real case of money impacting our sector. Whereas I think COVID, for the most part, it was more restrictive in terms of obviously the lockdown we experienced here. And you'd know this better than anyone in terms of, how we'd have to work then in enclosed spaces and all the new standard operating procedures that came in, which I think at this stage maybe we've got used to now. But I think in terms of I do believe there is sentiment there. There is funds in place. That volume of pipeline activity has remained consistent. The volume of obviously then your planning approvals has remained consistent in Ireland as well. But we've also seen some backlogs when it comes to the likes of appeals, which look, I suppose would be the same in any country. If someone's not kind of happy with a planning decision close near them or it'll impact their life, they can appeal. But we've obviously seen a backlog in terms of some of these decisions getting made. So planning has impacted maybe progression and activity in terms of the sector here. But look, hopefully in the coming 12 months, planning will get back on track. Decisions will be made in a timely manner so that, projects can be pushed on and moved on site. The activity on the ground has remained steady enough as well. As I spoke of, the lockdown we experienced last year in that first quarter obviously saw this explosion then in the second quarter of all these shovel-ready sites finally being able to get going. And I think as well, the impact of material costs, which, is probably seen across the globe, that really has impacted, from hearing on the ground, the likes of tender prices. What was agreed at one stage is now maybe potentially doubled. And then obviously those durations have been pushed out. So we're seeing a lot of projects, maybe more so public, go back to the drawing board in terms of, maybe the initial cost actually being far greater than initially envisaged. So that's having I suppose, an impact on some of the public sector projects more so. But yeah, the materials, I believe, really, really impacted and slowed down activity here. But I'm hopeful that, by early next year, that will have plateaued. Order books will be full. Deliveries of materials to site will be on time. And they'll obviously be of a decent price for the contractor and obviously the developer, so that sites can push on. Because, with one sector in particular, which is probably, again, not a global issue, but certainly it's the it's the priority sector when it comes to construction is the residential sector, and getting some of those much needed houses built and ready for occupation.
In terms of the construction material costs, how long realistically do you think is it going to be before we see some settlement in that? Because I absolutely know that is fundamental to where the industry goes. But also on Constructive Voices here, we talk about the subject of sustainability and the climate change battle that we are going through. Have you seen that causing an increase in costs? What other effects has that had on the construction industry in terms of delivery times and sometimes even the changes that are now being introduced when it comes to specification and how we deliver our homes and the energy that we use and that type of stuff?
Sure. I mean, I suppose myself and my team have been hearing the material issue for probably going on now 12 months. I sort of heard whispers of an issue, and I don't know if there's any truth in this or if it's just some urban legend that, there was a massive consignment of timber on its way to Ireland. I can't recall the month, but it was obviously in 2021. And I think our naivety was, look, we're locked down here. We won't need it for 4 months. And sure, I think that ship was then sent out to the Americas. It was coming from the Nordics and down to Americas. So obviously then we came out of lockdown and, thinking that sure, we'll click our fingers and this timber will magically appear. It was very much, sorry lads, you're at the back of the queue there. So, I think that's where the naivety in our part in terms of planning really kind of hit us badly. Having said that though, I think we're about a year or so down the tracks in terms of the likes of timber prices, steel prices, concrete. And I'd like to think that, at this stage, it will have plateaued. All going well from 23 on, I'd like to think that the impact of materials won't be, I suppose, as hurtful as it's been over the last 12 months. But certainly, as I mentioned, the rise in materials ultimately will result in the rise of a construction project. And our experience is more so with public sector contracts, whereby, to give you an example, maybe a school has agreed, a construction value of about 2 million, and the builder's finally been appointed. He's ready to go, but then he's getting those materials on board, and all of a sudden the price is 15-20% above what he'd anticipated. So then he's obviously gone back to the school, outlining the issues. There's redesign maybe on the table in terms of, right, let's go back to the drawing board, so to speak. Or it's a case of the school going almost cap in hand to the department saying, look, we need more money. There's no money there. And then the tender process begins. And the impact there is obviously schools are going, decades. And this isn't just a COVID issue really, or a materials issue, but schools are going decades without that redevelopment. But as I said, hopefully now in terms of the material issue, that will be something to be cleared up and plateauing by early next year. In terms of the other effects on delivery times, and like I alluded to there, that maybe what was once specified isn't going to be as robust, or it's not going to be as economically viable for the build. So maybe a new heating system that's come onto the market is now maybe proposed for the school, and I'm using that example in this case. So there's going to be redesign there. Obviously with the energy crisis now, I was chatting to a colleague of mine yesterday, and I hate to think of the bills that the likes of schools and hospitals are going to be kind of hit with, and it's a double-edged sword, because you've got spiraling bills, but then obviously you need to make sure people who are maybe ill are obviously in a very comfortable environment. And obviously our children are being taught in, well lit and well ventilated and warm classrooms. So that's been some impact of materials as well, maybe redesign. You've got labor shortages as well, like you spoke of. Maybe people are looking at Ireland in particular and maybe thinking, maybe I can move further afield and enjoy warmer climates at a cheaper price. And like you say, you can bring that skill and trade that you have with you and apply it, anywhere across the globe. But that's also been one area in terms of, getting bodies on site. that over maybe COVID have just said, look, I'm going to have a change of scenery here.
Just on the more greener build and the more environmental way of thinking and the upgrade of existing buildings, has that had an effect, and has that started to change the way some people do business?
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you should mention that. I was only looking at the plans of, and I can't recall the exact building, but I've actually noticed on a number of occasions now that the whole area of green roofs, I've seen more and more of them being kind of specified within office blocks, within maybe apartment developments as well. I suppose off topic, actually, I was looking at a building. I used to live in Sydney, and I remember looking at a building there in the area of Broadway, and it's just engrossed in green. It's almost like it's in the middle of a rainforest, and it looks brilliant. But I know in terms of, going back to your question, in terms of the office environment, and that's completely changed over the last kind of year or two with a lot of people remote working. But we had seen the pickup in, I suppose, those offices that are almost living and breathing. So, throughout the course of the day, you've lighting systems that change, which ultimately, I suppose, help people's productivity. You've got really well ventilated workspaces. You've got, serious green aspects throughout office buildings as well, which again will improve the working environment. So unfortunately, with remote working, maybe that's kind of hit a pause, if you will. But certainly over the last number of months, I have seen more and more of green roofs. I'd like to think that 100% of all new build housing is going to be A-rated. You can get green mortgages now, which people can avail of if they have I think it's an A3 and above. Obviously, longer term for the house owner there, you've got a house that sustains itself. Essentially, you've got potentially lower bills, and so certainly within the housing sector, you're seeing energy efficient builds there. Obviously, more attractive for homeowners in the long run. So yeah, it's definitely a form of design and construction that maybe during the COVID has sort of had a bit of a time out. But I would expect to see more and more of that now, and especially with the energy crisis that we're facing, the whole area of climate change now. And look, construction is, as I said, the backbone of any economy. And the more cranes in a skyscape, the better the country is doing. But it's vital that the buildings that are being constructed, and even the construction management plans, all point to a greener way of building and a greener way of designing. But certainly, yeah, and solar energy as well. Seen a raft of solar farms proposed for the country. Solar panels now are, again, as I go back to A-rated housing, they're part and parcel. A lot of new supermarkets in the country as well, all energy efficient. Obviously got electric charging stations as a prerequisite, I think, for most supermarkets, that there has to be a number of those charging points. So they'd be, I suppose, to answer your question, what I've seen is, yeah, as the months go by, there's certainly you're seeing an element of green building in almost every single construction project that we're coming across.
Good stuff. Well, it's great to hear. And who wouldn't want to be living in a highly efficient home these days with
of course,
basically farming your own energy and having very low energy bills will be the way forward. It certainly seems that those bills are never going to come down, and it just makes total sense that we now construct all buildings, whether it's residential or commercial buildings, in a way that they are efficient to run, and also that they're not producing emissions that are going to be harmful to the world. So it's great to hear that there is some positivity in that direction for the future of the construction industry. But let's talk about your future and enhancements and what's coming down the track for your business.
And look, as I alluded to there, we're always looking to listen to our customers and innovate. I suppose in the coming years, a lot of industry commentators have said that in terms of commodities, information will be surpassing the likes of gold and oil in terms of its value. And in the coming year, what we're looking to introduce in CIS for our customers and clients is a new forecasting model that's going to be, we believe, to be very advantageous for our customers. So we're going to be essentially crystal ball gazing and being able to predict kind of 1, 2, 3 year periods into the future to allow our customers forecast more precisely. We're looking to gather more metrics. We're looking at the whole area of megawatts and the output when it comes to our renewable energy schemes that we have on our system, and capturing that data. And then also data centers as well. And obviously they're quite, I suppose, a bit of a hot topic at the moment in terms of the energy that they use. But it's also looking at the output as well that they will give off once constructed. Looking at, in terms of hospitality, looking at restaurant covers. And again, it's just collecting as much data as we can, because we know that, look, there is someone out there that will be interested in being able to, see what a region looks like from, that particular metric. We're looking to, I suppose, introduce a more intuitive map that we already have by being able to harmonize open data sets to better contextualize the project information we currently have to hand. We've also started only in the last month or so to be able to offer our customers direct contact emails of those stakeholders, obviously adhering to the proper GDPR opt-in protocols there. So we have a number of things that we're looking to introduce in the next 12 months that we believe will be very good for all our customer types, and obviously being able to just gather as much information as we can, because one piece of data we have married with maybe a really obscure piece of data we have really does tell a wonderful story at the best of times. And just lastly, Peter, in terms of one area that we are really pushing in the next 12 months, and hopefully actually in the coming months, is our CIS Insights. So it's essentially a high-level tool. It's a version of our system, whereas rather than looking for project leads there and then, this is that high-level interrogation of what's going on in each sector, what those activity levels are like. So being able to analyze each sector by the project volume, project value at each stage of the construction and planning cycles. We've relevant metrics, as I said, the likes of classrooms, the housing units. We actually have the breakdown of those housing units. So is it 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bed, 4 bed, nursing home beds, hotel beds, hospital beds, just to name a few of the metrics that we currently collect. So again, this will allow decision makers within, both private and public bodies to make those informed decisions when it comes to company or departmental planning and direction.
Sounds like you're going to be a very, very busy man, which is good to hear. And just one final thing, it's been great chatting to you, and thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Would you like to just let people know where they could see a little bit more about your business and just your contact details there?
Yeah, so look, if people are interested in what we do here, we have a website, as I mentioned. It's CISIreland.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, where we provide project updates and industry news. We also have a column in the Sunday Business Post here in Ireland on a fortnightly basis, and we also contribute regularly to several industry publications. So happy to field any questions, or if people have if they want to visit the website, by all means, drop us a line.
So there you go, Pete. You talking to Scott Delaney. Obviously, you've heard the interview before because you did it. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. Information is key. It's power, and it saves time. It saves money. So why would you not want as much information as you can possibly get?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. No doubt about it. It was great to kind of get the back end of how people make decisions and how people can, use the information given to them and what the advantages are, how it influences the decisions that are made. And let's be honest, there's obviously big companies looking at this information, and they're strategizing their next move, and they're obviously looking at the costs involved and maybe how they can increase or maybe the need for them to decrease their costs. And let's be honest, that's a big part of what we talk about in the current times is the cost of construction. And if you can have a little bit of foresight into where you feel that the costs may go, it can certainly help a lot of decisions, but also lots of other stuff there that we discussed there with Scott, like the ability to be able to know what's in the pipeline and the ability to be able to know what's happening in certain sectors of construction and what's happening in certain fields, and what basically where the industry is going and what the trends are that's literally pure gold for anybody when they're trying to make big decisions.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about talent and getting people excited about being in the construction industry. And I think what's been highlighted in this episode, talking about information and the importance of data, is that, as we've said before, there are other roles in construction other than being on site and actually building. There are all the people who are analyzing data, who are looking at the different bits of information and being able to draw out really important bits that the people then who are doing the building can use and save themselves time, energy, effort, money, all the rest of it. So it really ties in with that as well, that whole thing of there are a lot of opportunities in the construction industry for people of all different talents.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. When we watch the big blockbuster movies, it's the guys who have the starring roles or the ladies that have the leading roles that everyone talks about. But in reality, to make that movie, there's so many people in the background and there's so many different people of areas of different expertise. It's the combination of all of those people coming together that delivers the blockbuster movie at the end. And look, construction is the exact same. It's not just about, the people on site, especially when it comes to the large scale construction work. There's so much admin, there's so much research, there's so many decisions that have got to be made off site. And again, we're speaking about this a lot lately as well. We are doing so much work now where we're driving towards doing a lot of off-site work. So to reduce the amount of energy, work and labour that's used on site. So really, really good stuff. I certainly learned a lot from it myself, and I kind of maybe may take one or two of those nuggets of information that I got today, and I'm probably going to maybe use somebody like Construction Industry Services going forward,
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little thing here about if you are trying to get somebody to be your data person, your number cruncher, your information specialist. And I picked this up from a company that I do some work for that are in the media area. And what they would normally, or in the old days, would have called kind of the number crunchers, they're now calling them the intelligence unit. Who wouldn't want to be part of that?
Sounds very special agent James Bond stuff.
Exactly that. Exactly. I want to be part of the intelligence unit. Good to speak to you as always. Talk next time.
Cheers, my man. Thank you very much.
And that's all for this episode of Constructive Voices. Please take a moment to share it with others who may find it interesting. Follow or subscribe to get the latest episodes automatically on your favourite podcast app, and rate and review the podcast if you can. You can also listen to the latest episode by saying, Alexa, play Constructive Voices podcast.
Here's Constructive Voices. Here's the latest episode.
And on our website, where there's lots more information too. That's constructive-voices.com. Don't forget the dash. Until next time, thanks for listening. You're really helping us build something.